You thought you were doing fine. You earn around 65,000 a year, maybe more, maybe less. But enough to feel stable. Your bills are paid. Your rent clears. Your car starts every morning. You even manage to save a little. On paper, nothing looks wrong. And yet, there's this quiet tension in the background. A subtle pressure. You feel busy maintaining your life, managing it, paying for it, protecting it, upgrading it. You assumed this was normal. You believed financial security meant earning more. So when your income increased from 45,000 to the 65,000, you expected breathing room. Instead, your lifestyle adjusted. A slightly better apartment, a newer car, a larger TV, subscriptions you barely notice at $14.99 here, $4.22 there. You didn't notice it slowly happening. You weren't becoming wealthier. You were becoming heavier. Look around your space right now. Your furniture, your electronics, your clothes, your car, your storage boxes, your kitchen gadgets. Everything you own feels static. One-time purchases, completed transactions, but they aren't. Every possession is still billing you. Quietly, you bought a $200 couch. You thought it cost $200, but it occupies 30 square feet of space in an apartment that costs you $2,000 a month. If your apartment is 800 square feet, you're paying about $2.50 per square foot per month. That couch is quietly costing you around $75 every month in space alone. Over 5 years, that's $4,500 in space cost. For a couch that cost $200. You never calculated that. Your car cost $28,000, but insurance is $150 per month. Maintenance averages maybe 10% of its value annually. Registration, gas, parking the car isn't a $28,000 item. It's a $28,000 system with recurring cash extraction built into it. And this pattern exists everywhere in your life. Closet full of clothes. They require space. Laundry time. Decision energy every morning. Garage tools, space, maintenance. Occasional upgrades. Electronics, accessories, warranties, replacement cycles. You thought you were buying objects. You were actually buying ongoing responsibility. No one explained that every item has two prices. The price tag and the lifetime cost of ownership. You've been measuring only the first number. This is why two people earning the same $80,000 can feel completely different financially. One owns less. The other owns more. The income is identical. The structure is not. You assumed income determines security. But spending structure determines pressure. And the pressure builds invisibly. You upgrade your phone every 2 years. You tell yourself it's only worth $1,000. Over 30 years, that's the $15,000. Invested at 8% annually, that money could grow to over $150,000. You didn't just spend $1,000. You spent the future growth of $1,000. You didn't notice the silent loss. Now zoom out. Imagine your entire home as a financial ecosystem. Every major item triggers supporting purchases. You buy a bike for $800. Then comes the helmet, the rack, maintenance tools, upgraded pedals, specialized shoes. The $800 becomes $600, then storage space, then time. This is the lifestyle multiplier effect. One decision multiplies into 10. And because you earn steadily, you normalize it. You tell yourself, I can afford it. But affordability and wealth are not the same thing. Affordability means your current income covers your current expenses. Wealth means your choices are not trapped by your income. Right now, if your paycheck stopped for 6 months, what would happen? Would your possessions protect you? Or would they become stress? Car payments still due. Insurance still due. Rent for all that space still due. Subscriptions still due. Storage units still due. You thought ownership was stability, but ownership can quietly reduce flexibility. You also underestimated mental load. Every item you own competes for attention. Something to clean, something to organize, something to fix, something to upgrade, something to store. Decision fatigue is real. When your closet has 60 clothing options, your brain processes micro decisions every morning. When your kitchen has 40 tools, you maintain 40 items. The cost isn't only financial, it's cognitive, and cognitive load affects financial behavior. When you're mentally overloaded, you default to convenient spending. Food delivery instead of cooking. Quick Amazon purchase instead of researching. Impulse upgrades instead of thoughtful decisions. Your environment shapes your spending, but no one taught you that. You were taught to chase income, not to manage ownership. So you increase your salary to $90,000. Your apartment upgrades from $1,800 to $2,700. Your car shifts from used to new. Your furniture improves. Your lifestyle expands to match income. And the gap between earning and saving barely changes. You feel richer, but you aren't freer. Now here's the uncomfortable realization. If you stopped upgrading today, If you froze your lifestyle at its current level, if every raise from now on went entirely to investments instead of upgrades, your net worth would grow dramatically within a decade. But that requires one thing you were never trained to control: ownership. Right now, your financial life may look stable, but beneath the surface, capital is locked into items that produce no return. Your money is sitting in closets, in drawers, in depreciating objects, in unused subscriptions, and because nothing feels urgent, you let it continue. This is the silent drift. You thought your financial future depended on earning more. But what if the real lever was reducing what you permanently commit to own? What if security isn't about adding, but subtracting? You were never taught the rules of ownership. You were taught consumption. You were taught upgrades signal progress. You were taught that bigger space equals success, but no one explained that every object quietly reduces your margin. Margin is the space between what you earn and what you must maintain. And without margin, there is no freedom. Something has been happening financially around you for years, slowly, quietly. You didn't notice it because everyone around you is living inside the same system. You thought this was normal, but now you're starting to see it. You're starting to see that something feels off. Not because you're irresponsible, not because you don't earn enough, but because the system you're living inside quietly rewards accumulation and penalizes restraint. Now let's pull the curtain back. Every purchase you make has two costs: the price you see and the price you never calculate. Call it the dual cost framework. Cost number one is obvious: the 2000 laptop, the 35,000 car, the Wonders 200 sofa. That's the visible transaction. Cost number two is ongoing, and it rarely shows up in your budgeting app. Take storage. If you live in a 900 square foot apartment paying $2,400 per month, you're paying roughly $2.67 per square foot per month. That's $32 per square foot per year. Now imagine a 40 square foot storage area filled with items you rarely use. That's about $1,280 per year just to hold things. Over 10 years, $12,800 for space, not for value creation. And that doesn't include maintenance. On average, physical items cost roughly 5–10% of their value per year to maintain, repair, insure, or replace components. A 20,000 car can easily demand $12,000 annually when you include insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. Depreciation is silent. Your 100–500 phone becomes worth $500 in 2 years. That's a 1,000 loss you normalize as just how it works. But here's the real invisible cost: opportunity cost. If you spend $5,000 on furniture upgrades instead of investing that money at 8% annually, over 30 years that $5,000 could grow to over $50,000. You didn't just spend $5,000. You spent $50,000 in future optionality. This is why two households earning $120,000 can end up in completely different financial positions. One household upgrades constantly. The other defines, enough, and holds the line. The difference compounds. Now let's introduce a simple but brutally honest metric: cost per use. True value equals total cost divided by realistic number of uses. You buy a 300 kitchen gadget and use it 5 times. That's 60 per use. You buy a 100 jacket and wear it 200 times. That's 50 cents per use. Marketing pushes you toward emotional excitement. Cost per use forces objective clarity. Now apply this to your closet. If you own 80 pieces of clothing, but regularly wear only 20 of them, 60 items are consuming space and capital while delivering almost zero utility. And because they're already paid for, you mentally treat them as free. But they're not free. They occupy square footage. They increase mental load. They crowd decision making. Next, apply the replacement test. If an item disappeared today, would you spend money to replace it? Look around your home. Imagine 10 random items vanished overnight. Would you repurchase all of them? Or would you shrunk? If you wouldn't rebuy it, its net value in your life is likely negative. It's consuming more than it contributes. Now think about upgrade culture. An item has a functional threshold. It works. It performs its core job. It fulfills its purpose. But boredom enters. Novelty enters. A newer model releases. Social comparison enters. Suddenly working feels insufficient. So you upgrade. A phone that still calls, texts, and browses is replaced because the camera improved. A car that runs reliably is replaced because the dashboard looks outdated. Over a lifetime, unnecessary upgrades across phones, cars, furniture, electronics, and appliances can easily exceed $200,000. That's not an exaggeration. That's math. Now step back and see the pattern. The system benefits when you equate identity with ownership. when your sense of progress is measured by visible upgrades, when income increases are immediately translated into lifestyle increases. But here's where it gets structural. Your financial security is not determined by income, it's determined by the gap between income and lifestyle. If you earn $70,000 and spend $68,000, your margin is $2,000. If you earn $55,000 and spend $40,000, your margin is $15,000. Who is safer? The second person, despite lower income, because margin creates capital. Capital creates options. Now consider the lifestyle multiplier effect. You buy a $35,000 SUV, but that SUV triggers higher insurance, higher fuel consumption, larger parking spaces, possibly a larger garage, road trips, accessories, cleaning, repairs. The true cost isn't the $35,000, it's $35,000 multiplied by its ecosystem. Every major possession creates a financial orbit around it. Remove one major possession, and you eliminate its entire orbit. Now let's talk behavior. You may believe discipline solves this, but willpower is unreliable. You're tired after work. You scroll online. One-click purchasing makes friction zero. Environment shapes behavior more than intention. If your payment information is saved, spending is frictionless. If shopping apps sit on your home screen, impulse purchases increase. If there's no waiting period, emotional spending wins. Introduce friction. Remove saved payment info. Delete shopping apps. Create a 24-hour waiting rule for non-essential purchases. At the same time, automate saving. Auto-transfer money to investment accounts on payday before you see it. Reduce accessible cash. Behavioral architecture beats motivation. Now consider inventory awareness. If you counted how many pairs of shoes you own, or how many kitchen tools, or how many subscriptions, the number itself would trigger awareness. Numbers break normalization. When you define a maximum threshold, say 30 clothing items total, or 1 in 1 out policies, accumulation slows structurally. This isn't minimalism as aesthetic, it's financial engineering. Because every possession ties up capital, and tied up capital cannot compound. The final hidden mechanic is defining enough. If you never define enough, your lifestyle expands endlessly. Income rises from $60,000 to $85,000, spending rises from $50,000 to $78,000. The savings gap barely widens. But if you define enough at $55,000 annually and freeze that lifestyle, then when income hits $85,000, the extra $30,000 flows entirely to investments. Over 20 years at 8%, that $30,000 annually can grow to over $1.3 million. That's not extreme earning. That's controlled ownership. You were told wealth equals accumulation. But accumulation often equals obligation. Real wealth may be something else entirely. You're beginning to understand the mechanics now. You can see how the silent loss happens. You can see how income alone isn't the answer. But understanding mechanics isn't transformation yet. Because knowing the system is different from stepping outside it. Now everything connects. You were never under-earning. You were over-owning. That's the shift. You thought financial freedom required a higher salary, a bigger opportunity, a lucky break. But the hidden lever has been sitting inside your home this entire time. Ownership is a commitment, and commitments consume capital. Capital isn't just money, it's optionality. It's the ability to pause, to change jobs, to say no, to relocate, to take 6 months off, to start something risky, to sleep without financial pressure. When your money is locked inside possessions, your options shrink. Let's redefine wealth. Wealth is not how much you own. Wealth is how many choices you have without needing your next paycheck. If you have $300,000 invested and your annual expenses are $40,000, you have roughly 75 years of optionality. That's space, that's control. But if you earn $150,000 and spend $145,000 maintaining a large lifestyle, you have almost no optionality. You have income, not freedom. So what creates optionality? Margin. And what destroys margin? Uncontrolled ownership. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't need to declutter your entire house tomorrow. You don't need a 20-step financial plan. You don't need a productivity overhaul. You need one structural shift. You need to define enough. Not socially, not aspirationally, mathematically. What annual spending level covers your housing, food, transportation, insurance, basic comfort, and reasonable enjoyment without constant upgrading? Run the numbers. Maybe it's a $50,000, maybe $65,000, maybe $80,000. The number is personal, but once you define it, you freeze it. That becomes your functional lifestyle threshold. Everything works. Your car runs. Your phone functions. Your furniture supports you. Your clothes cover you. Your home is sufficient. Nothing upgrades unless it fails its core function. Not because you're bored, not because a newer version exists, only because it stops performing its job. Now imagine your income rises from 75,000 to the 95,000. Under the old system, your lifestyle inflates. Better ICE or car, more subscriptions, more obligations, margin barely grows. Under the new system, your lifestyle stays at 65,000. The additional 20,000 goes automatically to investments, no decision required. It never touches your checking account. Over 15 years at 8%, that extra $20,000 annually becomes roughly $540,000. That's the power of a fixed threshold. This isn't about deprivation. It's about control. Now layer in ownership discipline. Before buying anything new, apply 2 filters. First, cost per use. Total lifetime cost divided by realistic usage. If the number feels uncomfortable, you pause. Second, the replacement test. If this disappeared in a year, would you rebuy it at full price? If the honest answer is no, it's a temporary emotional desire, not a durable need. You also introduce friction. Remove saved payment methods. Delete retail apps from your phone. Create a 24-hour waiting rule for non-essential purchases over 100. At the same time, automate your wealth. On payday, before you see the money, a fixed percentage transfers into investments. Not savings you can easily access, investments you don't touch. Now your environment works for you, not against you. Next, inventory categories: shoes, jackets, kitchen appliances, subscriptions, tools. Numbers create clarity. When you see that you own 47 shirts but regularly wear 12, the excess becomes visible. Visibility changes behavior. Set maximum thresholds. 1 in, 1 out policies. Cyclical monthly reviews, not dramatic purges, small consistent corrections. This prevents reaccumulation. Because here's the deeper truth: minimalist ownership isn't aesthetic, it's structural. Every major possession eliminated removes an entire cost ecosystem. Sell the second car. You eliminate insurance, fuel, maintenance, parking, registration, mental overhead. Downsize from Vun's 200 square feet to 900 square feet. You eliminate rent, utilities, furnishing, and storage costs tied to 300 square feet. At a 2 fee fixed per square foot monthly, that's $750 per month, $9,000 per year. Invested 8% for 20 years, roughly $440,000. One structural change, massive long-term impact. Now think about optionality again. If your annual expenses drop from $70,000 to $50,000, the amount of capital required for financial independence shrinks dramatically. At a 4% withdrawal rate, with a 70 load, annual expenses require about $1.75 million invested. 150,000 annual expenses require about $1.25 million. That's a $500,000 difference. Reducing ownership reduces the target. You don't need to earn dramatically more. You need to require less. And when you require less, every dollar invested works harder relative to your lifestyle. This is the hidden rule you were never taught. Financial security is not built by chasing higher income alone. It's built by controlling the size of the life you must financially maintain. Ownership is leverage. Too much of it leverages you. The shift is simple. Define your enough number. Freeze it. Automate everything above it into investments. And refuse upgrades unless something fails its function. That's it. Not extreme minimalism. Not deprivation. Not isolation. Just structural control over what you permanently commit to own. Because wealth isn't what fills your house. Wealth is the space between what you earn and what you need. And once you see that, you realize you were never broke. You were just carrying too much.